A devoted sadhu sits alone in Varanasi. I find this a captivating image. For me, the subject is well positioned against the vehicle, and the vehicle parked on an angle adds interest. I find the color palette works well, and I'm enjoying the framing of shadows to the bottom left and the right sides. I'm unsure whether the hand raised is no photos or hello, but for me, it creates a good connection between the artist and the subject. This is an honors with 19 points. All at sea. The streaks running from top to bottom across the window create an engaging element, though the subject feels too dark and could benefit from increased exposure and saturation. Adding some contrast to the sky by lowering the whites and highlights in the background might also help balance the composition. While the subject's current placement on the left third line adheres to the rule of thirds, shifting them to the right third line, considering their gaze towards the left, would enhance the storytelling by creating a more natural flow. This adjustment could be achieved by exploring a different angle while capturing the image. Overall, the photo presents a compelling narrative and earns a strong merit with a score of 9. Alone on the Lake captures the essence of New Zealand's natural beauty. The journey of the boat along its wake is visually engaging, evoking a sense of solitude amidst the vast expanse of the lake. The placement of the mountains to the right of the boat complements the composition effectively. However, the oversaturation of blue feels somewhat overwhelming and detracts from the overall harmony of the image. A touch of warmth could soften the color palette and create a more inviting atmosphere. The gentle ripples in the water enhance the tranquil and serene mood of the scene. This compelling image earns a score of 14, highly commended. A quiet moment offers an intriguing interplay of shadow and light, creating an atmosphere of mystery and drama. The image is beautifully framed by foliage around the edges, with the shadow of the fence contributing to the narrative. While the focus on the subject's back adds a sense of solitude, capturing the figure from another angle, perhaps revealing the hands or facial outlines, might lend greater depth and interest. The wall texture, while visually striking, feels overly contrasted, drawing attention away from the lonely figure at the heart of the composition. Nonetheless, the harmonious color palette and the interplay of shadow tones enhance the overall mood. This image earns a commended with 10 points. Contemplating farming life presents a thoughtful composition, with the farmer well positioned on the left third line, gazing into the scenery ahead. The use of a longer depth of field beautifully captures the layers of hills in sharp focus, adding a sense of vastness to the scene. However, the image could benefit from enhanced saturation, whites, and highlights to elevate the vibrancy of the colors. The tree positioned directly to the left of the farmer feels slightly intrusive, creating more distance between the subject and the tree, perhaps by adjusting the angle, might make the composition cleaner and less distracting. The farmer's choice of shirt adds a distinctly rural charm and serves as a strong element in the overall image. This piece earns a commended with 12 points. Coot fulfills the brief beautifully, showcasing the lone coot in its natural environment. The stretch of habitation is lovely but tends to dominate the scene, drawing attention away from the subject. The blue of the water stands out as a strong focal point, but a more balanced composition could be achieved by cropping from the top right corner downward. This adjustment would incorporate some water and vegetation while positioning the coot on the bottom third, making it the central focus. The image is well focused, and the colors are vibrant and pleasing. This work earns a merit with 6 points. Emerging alone celebrates the elegance of a minimalist calla lily. The gentle curve of the lily's form is captivating, and the composition could be enhanced with a portrait orientation and a tighter crop to highlight the intricate details of the flower. This adjustment might also exclude the fern and stalk, which feel less essential to the image's overall impact. Increasing the exposure of the background could further complement the highlights on the lily, enhancing its luminous quality. The lighting on the white petal and the harmonious color palette bring a soothing beauty to the photograph. This piece earns a commended with 11 points. Going solo conveys a serene atmosphere with its soft, diffused lighting, evoking a sense of calm tranquility. The sharp focus on the boat is effective, drawing attention to the central subject. However, the shallow depth of field seems to have softened the contrast on the hills in the background, which could benefit from more definition. The placement of the fisherman and boat is well considered, complemented by the vibrant color saturation. While the desaturated background helps to emphasize the boat, a touch of saturation in the background could create a stronger connection between the elements and enrich the composition. The subtle wake trailing behind the boat beautifully suggests motion, enhancing the story of the scene. This captivating image earns an 18 honors. His gone effectively captures the emotion of separation, weaving a narrative rich with unanswered questions. The backlighting on the subject's hair is beautifully done, adding a sense of depth and highlighting. However, the side lighting below her cheekbone could be improved by raising it to the side of her face, perhaps with a side light or diffuser, to enhance the overall balance of the lighting. The redness in the subject's skin feels oversaturated, likely reflecting something in front of her. A touch of desaturation or reduced contrast could achieve a more natural skin tone. Cropping the area to the right where she is leaning, as well as a small section at the top, could create a cleaner composition. Additionally, removing the white line to the left would help minimize distractions and focus attention on the subject. The rich tones in her dress and earrings lend authenticity and contribute to the image's overall impact. This piece earns a merit with 7 points. Is Anyone Out There? Evokes a strong sense of isolation, with the lone dog positioned among the tire tracks that suggest a troubling backstory. The image effectively conveys the all-alone theme, though the dog's presence feels somewhat diminished within the wider scene. A different perspective, perhaps capturing the dog from the side or cropping in more tightly, could strengthen its emotional impact and make it a more dominant focal point. The dog's patient posture adds to the sense of longing and quiet anticipation, reinforcing the story. This image earns a merit with 6 points. Lone Rose presents a striking focal point with its sharp depth of field, allowing the rose to stand out while remaining integrated into the overall scene. The muted colors and contrasting textures complement the blood-red rose beautifully, lending it a sense of permanence against the wall. However, the door feels slightly cramped on the right side. Incorporating more of the building in the frame could enhance the visual balance. The chosen angle adds intrigue, though aligning it more precisely with the right side wall lines could create a stronger sense of structure, as the light above the door currently appears skewed. The subtle touches of yellow throughout the image add warmth and depth, enriching the composition. This thoughtful piece earns a commended with 12 points. Lonely Chick stirs a bittersweet emotion, leaving one to hope its mother is nearby. While the chick is easy to spot, the abundance of greenery in the background tends to divert attention from the main subject. This image might have had greater impact if the artist had waited for the chick to move into the water, or to a setting where it could take center stage as the hero of the scene. The still blue water, reminiscent of ink, adds a captivating element of tranquility. This thoughtful image earns a merit with 6 points. Lonely Penguin showcases a serene mood with its soft overcast lighting and the beautifully contrasting textures of stones, sand, and sea. However, the gold tones in the sand feel oversaturated, drawing attention away from the penguin. Adjusting the exposure to brighten the image and reducing some of the warmth could provide a better balance and allow the penguin to stand out more prominently. The two smaller rocks and the larger one on the sand in front of the penguin are somewhat distracting. Their removal could simplify the composition and enhance the focus on the subject. The penguin itself is well captured, with sharp focus and fine detail. This thoughtful image earns a merit with 7 points. Lonely Seat in the Wilderness instantly sparks curiosity, posing the compelling why question. The contrast between the fabric-covered armchair and the rural surroundings is captivating, drawing the viewer back to the scene repeatedly. The composition is beautifully executed, with the lighting thoughtfully centered on the chair, enhancing its prominence. The placement of the chair on the right third aligns perfectly with the rule of thirds, contributing to a balanced and aesthetically pleasing image. This piece effectively fulfills the all-alone brief, evoking both intrigue and solitude. Highly commended with 16 points. The Only One on the Beach showcases a compelling perspective, with the low angle effectively drawing the viewer into the scene. However, a wider composition taken from further back might better emphasize the vastness of the beach and enhance the feeling of solitude. The square crop feels restrictive, and a landscape orientation, with the subject positioned on the right thirds line, walking into the image, could create a more spacious and engaging narrative. The subject appears darker in contrast to the beach surroundings. Increasing exposure would bring out more detail and harmony. The sunlight glimmering on her hair and the side of her face adds a delicate touch to the composition, highlighting her presence amidst the expansive scene. This thoughtful image earns a merit with 8 points. Pining evokes curiosity through its title, prompting one to wonder about the cone's missing counterpart. While the subject is clear, the crop feels somewhat awkward, as the lack of headroom above the cone limits its contextual grounding within the scene. The color palette is harmonious and appealing, however, the large cone on the beach seems both out of place and disconnected from its surroundings. The cone itself is captured with excellent focus, and the depth of field effectively isolates it as the subject. This image is accepted with 5 points. Riding Out the Storm lives up to its title, with a stormy atmosphere and a beacon that seems to lean as though buffeted by the water's unrest. While the beacon itself stands out, its overly sharpened and darkened treatment feels at odds with the overall grey moodiness of the scene. The monochromatic approach effectively enhances the somber tone, though adding exposure to the darker areas of the bush on the left could lend them more depth and form. The unusual texture in the water appears somewhat inconsistent and seems to reflect unfinished post-processing, giving it a slightly artificial feel. However, the repetitive lines in the layers of hills and the ripples in the water contribute a rhythmic quality that enriches the composition. This image is accepted with 3 points. Scenic Winter Walk presents a rich tapestry of colors and textures, creating a visually engaging scene. The solitary subject stands out with the bright green of his shirt, yet the composition places greater emphasis on the landscape rather than the sense of aloneness. A shallower depth of field could have drawn more focus to the subject, subtly blurring the background to create separation. Alternatively, a panoramic crop might shift attention away from the trees and sky, allowing the human element to take precedence. The trees leaning into the subject subtly indicate the direction of the wind, adding a dynamic element to the scene. The subject is well positioned on the thirds line, contributing to the image's balance. This thoughtful composition earns a commended with 11 points. Sentinel stands as a commanding focal point, its presence accentuated by the monochromatic shades of blue that surround it. The composition skillfully leads the eye from the sentinel to the layered hills beyond, creating a natural flow through the image. While an excess of blue can sometimes feel overwhelming, the contrast between the dark sentinel and the soft blue sky achieves a delicate balance, making the scene harmonious and compelling. This striking image earns honors with 19 points. Solitary Sailor captures an intense, dramatic mood, with its monochromatic background setting the tone for a compelling visual story. The yacht's placement on the right third is well considered, and the panoramic crop enhances the sense of vastness, amplifying the scene's atmosphere. Increasing contrast in the water, perhaps by subtly reducing the whites, could further define its texture and depth, while also softening some of the brightness in the sky for a more balanced composition. This image beautifully embraces minimalism, allowing the simplicity of elements to heighten its impact. Highly commended with 13 points. Solo balloon makes a striking visual impact, with the red balloon providing a bold contrast against the vivid blue sky. The off-center placement works well, complemented by the trees framing the left and bottom of the image. However, capturing the scene from further back, or at an earlier stage, before the balloon drifted so close, might have created a more open composition, allowing more of the trees below to be visible and reducing the sense of crowding. The bright, clear atmosphere truly makes this feel like the perfect day for a balloon ride. Commended with 10 points. The lone tree serves as a striking focal point, perfectly aligning with the all-alone theme. The muted tones and the interplay of textures in the foreground, between rocks and grasses, create a harmonious and layered composition. The dark sky acts as a dramatic backdrop, allowing the tree to stand out with strong presence. The photographer's choice of a lower angle works effectively, though an even lower perspective might enhance the sense of grandeur and isolation further. The subtle golden highlights on the grasses introduce depth and warmth, adding an extra layer of interest to the scene. This compelling image earns a highly commended with 16 points. Tui captures the striking presence of this photogenic bird, with its placement slightly left of center guiding the viewer's eye toward the right. The composition works well, though the brightness of the background competes for attention, subtly diminishing focus on the Tui itself. Lowering the exposure, particularly in the bottom right corner, could create a more balanced contrast, allowing the bird's rich details to shine. Increasing exposure around the head would further define its intricate plumage. Removing the portion of the pink flower in the bottom right might also enhance the simplicity of the frame. The depth of field effectively softens the background, making the subject stand out. This image earns a commended with 12 points. This Tui image beautifully showcases the bird's angle and its striking contrast against the blossoms. The depth of field is effective, highlighting the subject while maintaining a soft background. However, the crossover of numerous branches creates some visual clutter, which might be reduced by darkening the background or cropping more tightly around the Tui to bring greater emphasis to the bird. The rich colors of the Tui have been captured exceptionally well, enhancing its presence within the frame. This image earns a highly commended with 13 points. All Alone Lighthouse is thoughtfully composed, with the lighthouse positioned on the right, naturally drawing the eye toward it. The time of day has resulted in bright highlights on both the lighthouse and the grass beside it, which could be softened using a polarizing filter to achieve better balance. The colors, while vibrant, appear slightly oversaturated. Reducing the blue and green saturation would create a more natural and harmonious palette. The depth of field is effectively handled, allowing the lighthouse to remain the focal point while maintaining clarity throughout the scene. This image earns a merit with 9 points. All Alone effectively conveys the theme, with the lone walker and dog emphasizing scale and perspective against the imposing building behind them. The building itself appears to lean backward, and using the transform tool in Lightroom could help correct its angles for a more balanced composition. The bright blue sky and illuminated building feel oversaturated. Adjusting the blues and highlights could enhance realism and bring a more natural tone to the scene. The touch of gold on the subject provides a striking contrast, adding warmth and visual interest. This image earns a merit with 9 points. Alone in Thought masterfully conveys moodiness, with its rich color palette reinforcing the contemplative atmosphere. Increasing the exposure could further enhance the stunning hues on the horizon, bringing out their subtle beauty. The solitary figure is positioned effectively, and the separation between the elbows and body adds definition to the silhouette, lending it a sense of presence. The golden grass in the foreground provides a strong visual frame, grounding the composition while complementing the overall tone. This evocative image earns honors with 17 points. Black Swan features charming pops of pink flowers around the swan, adding a delicate touch to the scene. Cropping from the bottom of the lower pink flowers might help draw more focus to the swan and simplify the composition. The image feels somewhat busy, with the grasses crossing the middle adding visual distraction. Removing these could create a cleaner and more impactful frame. The reflection of the swan's beak and neck in the water is a lovely detail, enhancing the overall elegance of the subject. This image earns a merit with 9 points. Having a Whale of a Time is a remarkable capture, likely taken from a vessel at a respectful distance. The colors in the sky and their reflection on the water are stunning, creating a serene and captivating atmosphere. The whale tail commands immediate attention, serving as a strong focal point. The harmonious tones in the background and sky further enhance the image's tranquil beauty. This evocative composition earns an honors with 17 points. Florida Snow captures a playful and whimsical moment, where snow hats and red plaid pajamas create a striking visual contrast against the pristine whiteness of the snow. The snow on the child's front adds charm and detail to the scene. The lighting is effective, though to fully meet the solitary brief, capturing the image from further away, and including the entire body might have created a more isolated and reflective perspective. The depth of field is handled well, providing excellent separation between the child and the background. This cheerful image earns a merit with 9 points. Leave Me Alone is a wonderfully apt title, perfectly complementing the narrative of the lemurs seemingly turning their backs. The crop effectively highlights the line of overlapping lemurs along the fence line, drawing the viewer's attention. However, taking the shot from further back might have allowed the front subject to align with the third line, as well as fully including the lemur's tail, enhancing the composition. Alternatively, Cropping from the top left to remove some of the background lemurs could simplify the frame and reduce visual distractions. The foliage, while vibrant, feels a touch oversaturated. Reducing its intensity could bring greater focus to the lemur's natural colors. The bright, captivating eyes of the lemurs add a compelling element of intrigue. This image earns a commended with 10 points. Solid as a rock delivers a striking sense of drama, emphasizing the lengths photographers go to for that shot. Despite the subject's small scale within the frame, it immediately draws focus, standing out amidst the rugged scene. Increasing exposure on the subject could enhance contrast against the sky, making it even more impactful. The rocks, with their sharp detail and dramatic texture, anchor the composition with a strong presence. This compelling image earns a commended with 11 points. Solitude gives the seagull a striking presence, almost resembling a garden ornament against the serene backdrop of sky and sea. While the composition is visually appealing, the central placement of the bird feels slightly distracting. A panoramic crop, positioning the gull on the back vertical third line, with only a small portion of the post visible, could enhance the bird's context within the scene. The image appears somewhat dark, and lifting the exposure could help bring out its details more clearly. The cloud formations are beautifully rendered, adding depth and atmosphere to the scene. This image earns a merit with 6 points. Solo presents a compelling composition, with the subject seamlessly integrated into the musical notes, enhancing the artistic connection. Capturing the image from a slightly greater distance might allow the full figure to be included, further emphasizing this interplay. The black and white treatment, along with the subject's black dress, creates a harmonious blend between her and the background. The rough texture of the wall contrasts effectively with the smoother surface at her level, while the missing patches of paint in the top left add a sense of authenticity and context. The subject's facial expression, paired with the headset, conveys a feeling of deep immersion in the music, strengthening the emotional impact of the image. This evocative piece earns a highly commended with 16 points. Time Out perfectly aligns with its title, as the red car truly appears to be in a moment of pause. The bold color of the car serves as an excellent focal point, immediately drawing the viewer's attention. Cropping up from the bottom left corner to place the car on the left third's line could improve its placement within the image, creating a more balanced composition. The oversharpened details, evident in the halo effect around the trees and car, slightly detract from the natural feel of the scene. Softening this could enhance its overall presentation. The panoramic crop works effectively, emphasizing the wide scope and contributing to the dramatic appeal. This thoughtful image earns a highly commended with 13 points. Where Did All My Friends Go? Effectively captures the feeling of solitude, with the vastness of the backdrop emphasizing the aloneness of the penguin. The white areas have been carefully managed in post-processing, maintaining their clarity without overpowering the scene. The soft blues convey a palpable sense of coldness, enhancing the emotional tone of the image. The penguin appears oversharpened, raising the question of whether it might be a composite element. Nevertheless, the composition succeeds in conveying a powerful sense of scale and emotion. This thoughtful image earns a merit with 9 points.
Alone with nature, the panel felt this is a beautifully observed scene, with the fire rainbow adding a unique and captivating focal point. The composition leads the viewer nicely through the landscape. We did feel, though, to further enhance the image, Consider lifting the shadows slightly to bring out more detail in the hills and adjusting the contrast to add depth and drama. Also, cropping a little from the top and left could, we feel, help strengthen the composition and focus attention on the rainbow. Overall, a lovely rural scene with good light and thoughtful framing, well done on capturing such a special moment. Highly commended with 13 points.
Just Landed captures a well-exposed and sharp moment, perfectly complementing the subject and telling a clear, engaging story. To enhance the composition, cropping slightly from the right and bottom could reduce empty space, focusing attention on the main subject. Adjusting the shooting position might reveal additional detail along the building's side while minimizing the bright foreground hotspot. Balancing the light between highlights and shadows could further enhance harmony and overall depth. This clever and thoughtful capture effectively conveys the excitement of the moment. Highly commended with 13 points.
Lonely Skies, we liked how the smoke trails and layered sky add real atmosphere and depth to the dynamic action moment that fits the topic well and shows great potential. We felt that the visual impact could have been enhanced by cropping out some of the sky, a square crop perhaps, to tighten the composition and bring more prominence to the subject. Overall, this is a strong image that just needs a little refinement in framing and focus to truly shine. Great work capturing the moment. This is commended with 12 points. Struggle Street presents a striking and well-observed subject, telling a compelling and emotive story. The grunge styling perfectly complements the mood and reinforces the raw, documentary-style narrative. While the exposure is generally well-balanced, the background feels slightly underexposed, and the colors appear a bit oversaturated, although this might align with the artist's creative intent. Adopting a lower shooting angle could further enhance the connection with the viewer, adding impact to the composition. Additionally, straightening the overall frame would bring added polish and refinement. The layered elements work effectively, creating depth and visual interest. This is a powerful image with great potential, earning honors with 17 points.
Training on Lake Rotorua, this is a well-seen and sharply focused moment with great reflections and strong action. To enhance the impact, we would consider allowing more space around the subject, especially near the paddler's hand, to avoid a crowded feel and to show more of the reflection. Lifting the shadows in post-processing will help bring out facial detail, while watching for blown highlights, especially on bright surfaces like the hull, will refine the exposure. A slightly wider or better timed shot could add an emotional connection to the narrative. Overall, this is a thoughtful and well-executed image with excellent potential. Highly commended with 13 points. Lone Paddler, you've captured a strong sense of isolation within a vast landscape, and we appreciate how the composition shows great subject-to-background separation. We think that allowing a little more space at the top and adjusting the exposure on the subject slightly to help it stand out would enhance the impact of the image. Cropping from the left or experimenting with a panoramic ratio could improve balance and place the subject more effectively on the thirds. The lighting, reflections, and sky contrast work beautifully, and the wind farm and shoreline add extra layers of interest. A thoughtful and well-composed image, nicely done, with 16 points highly commended. Dark Horses, you've captured an interesting and lively scene, and the monochrome treatment suits the subject well, enhancing the textures and mood. The image shows good depth of field, though a tighter crop or a lower shooting angle might have offered a stronger composition and minimized clutter behind the subject. Watch for exposure balance on the main subjects, especially around reflective surfaces, to further polish the result. Overall, a creative image well seen and thoughtfully executed, a great effort with lots of potential. This is a highly commended with 14 points.
Good Vibrations, in the view of the panel, this is a creative and intriguing image that shows you're willing to experiment, which is always great for growth. The vibrant color effect adds real impact, though the double exposure-like edges and variation in background exposure can be a little distracting. Cropping from the left and top could help tighten the composition and bring more focus to the subject. Including the full set of petals on the right might also enhance the balance. Overall, a bold and artistic effort. It's exciting to see photographers exploring new ideas like this. Commended with 11 points.
Grazing. This is a well-composed and beautifully sharp image with excellent exposure and focus, especially around the horse's eye, always a key element in animal portraits. The diagonal angle of the head creates a strong and engaging composition. To enhance the impact, consider removing or avoiding distracting elements like the grass across the horse's mouth and nose, and watch for small details like the eyelid position, half closed, which can affect the sense of connection. A lower shooting angle might also strengthen the viewer's engagement. Overall, a lovely and well-executed portrait that shows great technical skill. Highly commended with 14 points. The Fun Master. We saw this as a wonderfully timed portrait that captures both character and a real sense of fun. The lighting is beautifully handled, especially around the eyes and face, and the blurred background helps separate the subject well. To refine the composition further, consider cropping just below the elbow and in from the left to remove some background distractions, including the logo on the headphones, which can pull attention away from the subject. Adjusting your position slightly at capture could also simplify the scene. Overall, a sharp and joyful image. You've really caught a great moment here. This is an honors with 17 points.
Feather Friends immediately draws the viewer's attention to the expressive faces of the gannets and the shared feather, hinting at a possible mating ritual. The crop works effectively, with the birds centrally placed in a way that is both balanced and aesthetically pleasing. Adjusting the whites and highlights in the background could help soften the bright gannets, while increasing them slightly in the foreground might better define the subjects and create stronger separation. The sharp focus and the natural grass framing in front of the gannets enhance the overall depth and intimacy of the scene. This beautifully captured moment earns a commended with 12 points. Street Shoot showcases dramatic lighting that enhances its vintage aesthetic, creating a strong visual impact. The contrast between the background's modern elements and the subject's timeless feel adds an intriguing narrative layer. A panoramic crop could help refine the focus, removing some of the background and foreground distractions to better center attention on the main subject. The color palette works harmoniously, with the green dress in the center adding an engaging focal point. The light shards on the wall may feel distracting, though their presence could also contribute to the overall street theme, depending on the photographer's intent. This image stands as a solid example of street photography. Commended with 12 points. Majestic Jabiru radiates warmth as it basks in the golden light of golden hour, which beautifully enhances the subtle glow on its feathers. The bird's placement, positioned to the right and facing left, works well compositionally, though providing slightly more space to the top and right could enhance aesthetic balance. The short depth of field creates a sharp contrast between the background's soft blur and the slightly harsh texture of the foliage near the bird's legs. Softening this depth of field could help blend the foreground and background more seamlessly while preserving the overall sharpness of the subject. The rich colors and textures of both the bird and the surrounding foliage are well captured, and the direct gaze of the jabiru adds an engaging connection with the viewer. This striking image earns a highly commended with 13 points. Daring design showcases an engaging repetition of triangles and diamond shapes, forming a strong leading line that draws the viewer's eye upward through the construction. The colors and tones of the structure are well managed, complementing its bold geometric patterns. However, the background appears somewhat overexposed and lacks visual interest. Introducing more contrast and shadows in the trees could add depth and balance. Capturing this scene with golden light in the sky might further enhance the color contrasts, enriching the overall aesthetic. The interplay of materials and perspectives makes for a compelling composition. This image earns a merit with 9 points. Coppercat captures a familiar feline habit, finding the perfect sunny spot on a cozy bed. The image feels visually busy, making it challenging for the cat to serve as the central focal point. While working with a sleeping subject is tricky, a plain-colored cover underneath might have helped simplify the composition. Desaturating the background to reduce the impact of the reds and blues could further direct focus toward the cat. Additionally, lifting the exposure on both the cat and the toy would enhance their presence and bring clarity to the scene. The sense of routine and comfort in this napping spot is well conveyed. This image earns a merit with 6 points. All My Ducks in a Row captures the anticipation of the ducks as they appear ready for their next meal. The composition feels somewhat crowded, and a crop allowing more space on the water side, where the ducks are facing, could add purpose and direction to their alignment. Removing the 2 ducks at the top might simplify the image and keep focus on the main subjects, as they feel somewhat detached from the rest of the group. The focus and colors are well executed, bringing vibrancy and clarity to the scene. This engaging image earns a merit with 6 points. Watching You Watching Me is an image brimming with vibrancy, showcasing a shallow depth of field that creates a beautiful background. The green of the praying mantis stands out impressively, offering striking contrast and positioning it as the focal point. The crop is thoughtfully executed, with the mantis leaning into the negative space, adding dynamic balance to the composition. The overall image appears slightly dark, enhancing the highlights, and whites could brighten the scene and further emphasize the mantis. The exquisite detail in the mantis eye adds a captivating touch, pulling the viewer deeper into its world. The layering of the flower, mantis, and bouquet achieves an almost three-dimensional effect, giving the image remarkable depth. This stunning piece earns a highly commended with 16 points. Tara Dahlia exudes vibrancy, with the dahlia's tones and shades creating a captivating visual palette. The square crop and central placement are highly effective, naturally guiding the viewer's eye toward the flower's center and the contrasting green details. The shallow depth of field lends the image a delicate softness, beautifully emphasizing the sharp focus on the petals. This harmonious composition achieves a striking balance of color, texture, and framing. This stunning piece earns honors with 19 points. Splendid Fairy Wren showcases a harmonious blend of contrasting colors, which work beautifully together to draw attention to the subject. The alignment of the bird's tail with the angle of the branch creates a pleasing visual rhythm. The composition could be enhanced by shifting the bird slightly to the right, allowing for more negative space on the left to balance the framing and give the subject greater room to look into. The minimalistic approach is highly effective, highlighting the lovely detail in the bird's eye and wing feathers. This exquisite image earns honors with 19 points. Scottish Badger features a well-composed frame, with the badger's face centrally positioned and framed effectively by the stump and front foliage in the bottom third and left side. While the badger is in sharp focus, the high saturation and detail in the stump tend to draw attention away from the main subject. Using a shorter depth of field could have softened the background and foreground, creating a clearer emphasis on the badger. Alternatively, reducing the saturation on the stump and foreground might help direct focus more prominently to the subject. The full frontal stare into the camera is captivating, giving the impression that the badger is deliberately posing for the shot. This engaging image earns a highly commended with 14 points. Riding the Wave captures an exhilarating sense of motion, with its dynamic depiction of the surfer in action. The image appears slightly dark, enhancing the exposure and highlighting the surfer's face could elevate the energy and bring more focus to the subject. Adjusting the crop from the bottom right corner to position the surfboard along the bottom third line would help create a more balanced composition, allowing the surfer to take center stage. The waves are beautifully rendered, showcasing excellent exposure and movement that contribute to the vibrancy of the scene. This engaging image earns a commended with 12 points. Oharoa Falls beautifully showcases the ethereal effect of long exposure in both the water and the sky, creating a sense of motion and tranquility. The large tree on the right side of the skyline adds visual interest and balances the composition, allowing the centrally placed waterfall to stand out. The colors and tones in the bush work harmoniously, adding depth and richness to the scene. The bottom left corner of the water appears overly dark, lightening this area by brushing in some exposure, and lifting the shadows could bring more balance to the image. The pops of green moss on the rocks are especially delightful, adding texture and vibrancy to the waterfall. This serene and thoughtfully composed image earns a highly commended with 15 points. Night Spins showcases the mesmerizing allure of astrophotography, a genre that often challenges the artist's sleep schedule for the perfect shot. This image creates a striking 3D effect, evoking the sensation of being drawn into a vortex. The choice of lens contributes to this dynamic perspective, with the left and right sides leaning toward the central point, amplifying the visual impact. Capturing the image from further back, or using a lens capable of including the full circle of trails might improve balance, as the top feels slightly cropped. The yellow sun coloring in the bottom left third adds an intriguing and complementary touch. This captivating piece earns a highly commended with 16 points. Michael captures a compelling narrative, enriched by its evocative film noir style. The short depth of field is highly effective, providing excellent separation between the subject and the background, enhancing the visual storytelling. Reducing the overall exposure slightly could amplify the cinematic mood, lending an even greater sense of drama to the image. The small shaft of light over the subject's shoulder and onto the face is a masterful touch, revealing intricate details in the clothing while directing the viewer's attention squarely to the face. The reflections on the glasses add another layer of intrigue and character. This striking piece earns honors with 17 points. Horseshoe Falls wonderfully showcases the splendor of New Zealand's nature, with its thoughtful composition and effective use of long exposure to create a milky yet natural look in the water. The pops of sunlight through the foliage lead the viewers' eye gently toward the bush in the background, adding depth and movement to the scene. However, the very dark brown area of water in the foreground along this same line feels slightly too heavy, possibly due to a vignette effect. Brightening this area to complement the vivid green moss nearby, or reducing the vignette, could enhance the overall balance. The symmetry created by the two falls of water on either side of the bush contributes to a harmonious and visually pleasing composition. This serene image earns a commended with 12 points. Holding the Light is a creative and imaginative composition. The sun's brightness is well handled, avoiding overexposure, with its symmetrical rays adding visual balance. The subject feels a little too close, cropping the image from a farther perspective, if achievable, might provide a more expansive view, allowing more of the sky and clouds to enhance the overall scene. A landscape crop could further emphasize this celestial beauty. The sunset colors are appealing, though increasing the saturation and contrast could elevate the sea's vibrancy and impact. This is a delightful and thoughtful interpretation of a celestial moment. Accepted with 5 points. Fruit and Veg captures a playful and engaging scene, with the text and its clever highlights drawing immediate attention, thanks to the chosen shooting angle. The vibrant colors on the truck complement the shop window display beautifully, creating a layered interplay of shapes and hues. The umbrella at the top introduces a busy element that feels slightly cluttered. Taking the shot from a greater distance might have included more of the umbrella, bringing it into context with the truck and enhancing the composition. The possible use of a pancake lens, creating curvature in the image with the shop doorway angled and the truck curved, works effectively here, as it echoes the curve of the shop window display. This lively and dynamic image earns a merit with 9 points. Bedraggled effectively conveys the weary appearance of the bee, capturing a delicate and emotive moment. The composition is well balanced, with the bee emerging over the petal presented skillfully. The droplets on the petals add a lovely touch, enhancing the overall texture and detail. The image appears somewhat dark, and increasing the exposure while introducing some warmth could bring greater clarity and vibrancy to the scene. The extra petal on the left provides context and contributes to the visual flow, with its angle forming a V shape that cleverly mirrors the V in the bee's leg. This thoughtful and well-captured image earns a highly commended with 16 points. A pool in the bush effectively captures the natural beauty of the forest and water, with highlights in the forest area creating a compelling frame that guides the viewer's eye to the pool. The layered framing of the bush adds a sense of depth and perspective, enriching the composition. Introducing a point of interest within the water could enhance the image further, providing a stronger sense of scale and size for the pool. The leading lines from the water to the stream, framed by the cliff faces, work beautifully to direct attention and emphasize flow. The varying shades of green and yellow foliage create a harmonious balance of light and shade, adding texture and vibrancy to the scene. This tranquil image earns a highly commended with 15 points.